気分は最高だけどびっくり世界が
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 14 of The Spy Who Loved Megaranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Denji Sentai Megaranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show, and we share our thoughts with you, the listener. My name is Matt J. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today?
Doing well, man. The weather finally broke yesterday. It had been
very
crazy
exciting.
hot, and the weather, we had a big thunderstorm, and this was actually very cool. My kids have traditionally been very afraid of thunderstorms, but yesterday they were sort of they were awake and not like it was an early evening thunderstorm, and so they were awake. And so we sort of went outside and held them. We talked about it, and then they ran out and played in the rain and screeched about how A, delighted they were to be playing in the rain, and B, squealing with delight about how proud of themselves they were about how brave they were being about the thunder and lightning storm. It was great.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was
That's very nice.
It was a pretty choice kid moment.
Yeah, really. Man, I used to love playing out in the rain during a big storm.
Yeah, it's the best. It's great.
Anyway, you know what else is great, Dave? Episode 14, surprise, the neighbors are Nejirejians. I don't know how to say that word, which is why...
I don't.
It's not that word never comes up in the show. It's that in the show, they sort of use it interchangeably with just saying Nezire, which we're probably also mispronouncing.
Yeah,
And
we
so
probably are.
I just always take that opportunity to sort of lightly edit the show to say that they're saying Nezire instead of Nejirejians.
Yeah, whatever it is.
So that's the episode of this title, or the title of this episode, rather. And I'm not going to say it again.
Sounds good.
Before we get into that, Dave, as always, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. Dave, of course, it's our officially award-winning opening segment. And could you please tell me what our first star of the week is?
Man, our first star of the week is Isolation Update.
As it has always been.
Isolation Update.
So far as I know, there was never a time before Isolation Update.
Thankfully, Matt, in times like these, we do have historical artifacts like that spreadsheet that Mark put together to remind us of the fact that things weren't always as they are now. And I think...
Sure. I used to have a commute update.
Wow.
You used to have a bus update, Dave.
I don't know why that hit real hard, but it did.
I mean, I haven't even had a commute in a while. Someday, Dave, my commute update will be back, and the commute update is just going to be, I drove to work today for the first time in X number of months.
Oh, jeez. So, how's your isolation going, Matt?
I don't know, man. The other day, I spent straight up an hour making a Bloody Mary.
Okay.
And actually probably more time than that because, okay, let me break this down for you.
Out of curiosity, real quickly, are you a dude who traditionally likes Bloody Marys, or was this maybe I don't like Bloody Marys because I've never had one crafted with enough care?
I am a guy who periodically likes Bloody Marys. It's not a go-to drink for me.
Okay, because I'm not a Bloody Mary person. I think I just don't like tomato juice.
I have had a few in my day that made me think wait a second, I do like these. I'm just picky about how I like them.
Okay, I get it.
So here's what I did. The week before, I put in an order to my local liquor store because they do home delivery.
Cool.
Which is very convenient, especially these days. And I got a 5th of vodka. The next time I went to the store, I got some fresh dill and some garlic. I put those.
Oh, this is
vodka.
A classic. Yeah.
And I let them sit for a week, right? Now, what I also did, and this I now think was a mistake, is I put in a few peppercorns and some mustard seed. I thought that would give it a flavor profile more similar to what you get in a dill pickle brine. And what I think it actually did is it sort of overcomplicated the flavor.
Okay, yeah, I can see where that would be.
But I was talking to a friend of mine, and they were like, well, what that sounds great for is Bloody Marys. Like, that is sort of like custom made for a delicious Bloody Mary.
See, that's perfect. That's not advice I would have been able to give you.
Right, and I agreed. So I let it sit for like a week, and then I was like, man, today's the day. I'm going to do it. And then I remembered, like, oh, I don't have tomato juice. But what I do have is a can of whole tomatoes. I'm like, well, I have a can of whole
in that
tomatoes.
sense, you definitely do have tomato juice.
Right, so I pulled out the food processor. I dumped this is something I had actually done similarly like a week before when I had made gazpacho. I'm like, well, I've actually just done this, so I know what to do. I put the can of tomatoes in the food processor, like just, blended it for a while, and then poured it all through, like forced it all through a metal strainer into like a bowl, and then sort of put that into glasses.
Yes. Okay.
So
got it.
This so I've already spent a week infusing the vodka. Then it must have been at least dealing with the food processor, and this is what took most of the time.
Okay.
But it was like it's like super delicious fresh tomato juice, right? Did all that, put in like hot sauce, Worcestershire, some smoked paprika, salt, pepper. I didn't have celery salt, which was a disappointment. I squeezed some lemon and lime juice into it because I had some fresh lemons and limes around. It was like,
this sounds like a very in-depth Bloody Mary.
Dave, I think that any good Bloody Mary either is in the reason that it doesn't take forever when you order one is that people just make a jug of what I'm talking about and they have it set aside for when people order Bloody Marys.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. If they're doing it properly.
I think the horseradish is really what put it over the top. Man, one time I had a Bloody Mary at an airport outside of Indianapolis.
Seems like a weird spot to get a great Bloody Mary.
Maybe, but I can tell you that it was true. And what they did is they used this really horseradish spicy cocktail sauce that they normally used for their shrimp cocktail sides. I had ordered some of that. I was traveling for work, and when I travel for work, I get to splurge a little on food because I get a per diem for food when I travel. Which is why I got fancy food at the airport outside of Indianapolis.
Yeah. No,
and so I got that shrimp cocktail, and I was like, oh, I need you to make me a Bloody Mary with whatever this sauce is. Please, please, please. I need one. And I got it, and I tell you, it was great. I haven't hit those heights with the ones at home, but very good stuff. Very good stuff. How was your isolation, Ben?
It's fine. It really is just kind of... Things are starting to change a little bit. I am starting to gear up for school again, kind of whatever that might look like.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. You came over on Saturday, which was great.
Yes, it was very nice.
We were able to hang out for the day because it was Beth's birthday.
It was great. It was very nice. I had a wonderful time.
We went to the art museum again, and I will tell you, Matt, that the twins did ask if next time we went to the art museum, if Uncle Matt was going to come.
Ooh,
so
I do love the art museum.
Yeah, you kind of need to come.
Obviously, I am not on summer vacation, so timing will be an issue. But
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure something out. Anyway, Dave, what is our second star of the week?
Second star of the week, Matt, as has become a little bit of a tradition, I guess. Matt, it's time for the latest installment of Bun Vulcan. Welcome to Bun Vulcan.
Dave, I am so glad that you and I are both baking, because in a time when we do not have anything else to talk about, it is a solid, reliable thing that we just leave on the 5-star list.
Yeah, it is nice to have something that we can loop back on. I mean, so here's the other thing I've been doing. I think I mentioned this. I've been working out dramatically more frequently than I have at any point in the last probably decade, I would say.
Okay.
And that's pretty great. It feels really good, and I feel like I'm feeling some results. I'm feeling results which is the important part. But I am seeing visibly some results, so that's also very cool. That's not Bun Vulcan. That's just the other thing I've been doing with my isolation that is a little bit out of the ordinary for me.
Although I will say, especially with the style of Bun Vulcan updates that you've been bringing to the table, it is perhaps very good that you are doing a lot of exercise.
Well, here's what I've been doing. I have cut down to once a week. So like on Saturday, I'll have made something.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of pick a thing that I'm going to make for that week. And then the kids help me make it, and mostly they just get in the way. And then on Saturday, we have whatever it is going to be.
Oh, nice.
So this past Saturday, I made, for Beth's birthday, I made two things. I made those Alsatian-style cinnamon rolls that I had told you about before, so you got to try those. They were done with like brioche and the cinnamon almond cream.
Delicious.
Yeah, they turned out really well. Much better the second time. So the first time I made them, they're made with brioche, which is like a super buttery, very, very soft dough. And so once it gets warm, it's really hard to work it. And so this time I took some more time and like refrigerated it more in between steps. And the end result, I think, was a lot neater and turned out really well. I also made something new, which in the book is called Bee Sting Brioche. It's got a French name, and then it's got an Alsatian name, by which I mean a German name.
Right, sure.
And but basically what it is you make a brioche, but instead of making it on a loaf pan, you just make like a big round like it's a brioche in the shape of a cake.
Okay.
Effectively. And then you just and then before you bake it, you put on this mix of butter and sugar and honey and almonds, and you spread that over the top of the cake, and then it rises, and then it bakes, and then you cut it in half, and you fill the middle.
You cut it in half like a sandwich.
Like a sandwich cake, yeah. So you cut it in half, and then you fill the middle with creme diplomat. And creme diplomat is pastry cream into which you have mixed whipped cream. So this was very weird because the book did say, like, oh, mix up your creme diplomat the day before. And I was like, that seems weird because it feels like it'll deflate and get liquidy. But, like, the book says to do it the night before, so I'll do it the night before. And, like, clearly he is doing something with his creme diplomat that, like, I don't know about or did wrong because my creme diplomat had totally deflated.
Right, it just turned into, like, a delicious custard.
Yeah, it was great, and we just sort of, like, poured it on, but it did not have quite the textural element that I think I would have been looking for. But anyways, it was delicious.
It really
was.
What,
Matt? Yeah, you had some. Thank you so much. What is your Bun Vulcan update, Matt?
Dave, I have been trying a new kind of bread. Up to this
exciting.
Up to this point, I've really just been doing the. I've been using different sorts of flour, and so making different, flavors, I guess, of loaf. But it's basically all just been the sort of,
Oh yeah, the one like throw it all in and it sits, and then
you throw it in, you let it rise overnight, you do it up in a Dutch oven. It's like a big, crusty loaf, Yeah,
it looks great.
It does look great, and it's been very nice. But, I wanted to try something else, and also I wanted to do something where I could like start and finish the project in one day.
Okay, that is definitely
because with the no knead dough, like basically you mix that stuff up in a bowl and then you let it sit for 18 hours, and then you take it out and you let it sit for 2 more hours and then you bake it. Like it's, you can't have bread today if that is the bread that you want to make. You have to already have started yesterday. And I was out of bread, and so I was like, okay, I recently saw a video about making baguettes. I am going to try to do this. Which was a very interesting experience because a baguette is, definitely something that requires a lot more hands-on effort.
Yes. Yeah. Although my understanding about baguettes, I've never tried baguettes, is that like you look at a baguette and you're like, well, there's only 4 ingredients. And like in theory should be very simple. Like it doesn't look like a complicated bread, but it is in fact very difficult to get right.
It is okay. It is very difficult to like master. It turns out that it is not terribly difficult to make something that approximates a baguette, I guess.
Okay, I dig it.
Like basically what you have to do is it's basically the same ingredients but in different proportions than the other bread I was making, like, salt, yeast, flour, water.
I think that's pretty much all of baking. It's
right.
like it's the same 5 ingredients in like slightly different proportions.
But, like there's no butter, there's no sugar, right? Like it's just those things.
Yeah. That would be brioche.
But it's just a lot of like and also it's a lot more yeast. And so
okay.
Like the bread that I normally do is like a quarter teaspoon, I think, of yeast. And the baguettes, which use about the same amount of flour, maybe a little bit more, I actually don't know what it is in teaspoons, but it's 5 grams of yeast, which is quite a bit more.
That's quite a bit more. That's about double.
So it's just a lot of like...
off the top of my head.
Yeah, like instead of letting it sit for 18 hours, you let it sit for 20 minutes, and then you like pick it up and fold it over each other a few times, and then you have to do that a few times. And then you have to like form the loaves, which is its own whole thing, which makes me like have to... I've now done this twice. The first time I did it, they were fine. They were kind of a mess. The second time they looked a lot better. But like I realized that to do it, to like actually have the room to roll out the baguette and like have them rest on the countertop, I have to like take everything off of my counter. So like to do it, I have to like completely reconfigure my kitchen for like 3 or 4 hours. And then I can like super wash down my countertop and sort of cobble it all back together. But the wild thing is that you have to like spray the loaves, the baguettes with water from like a sprayer before you put them in the oven. And then like 5 minutes into baking them, you like open up the oven and like sort of half pull them out and spray them down again.
Oh, this is like in commercial bakery ovens have like a humidity control.
Yeah, my oven does
where
not.
They're like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, no.
My oven insane. Has like a baking tray of water that I put in the bottom to kind of like introduce moisture, but it's so anyway, it was a lot more hands-on. But I have done it twice now, and it has. I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of it. I'm very excited because
dude, sounds great. I'm excited to try it at some point.
Yeah, maybe next time I come over, I will like wake up early that morning and make some.
Dude, that would be pretty rad.
It would be pretty rad, but I'm not going to promise because I would have to wake up pretty early, I think. Anyway, Dave, we've been talking about bread for a while. What's the third star of the week?
So our third star of the week, Matt, is this show I'm watching. I'm watching this show alone. I mentioned it before. It's this like competitive survival show. They drop 10 people off in a harsh location, and just like last person to call in the rescue crew wins $500,000, right? Well, so we just started the 6th season of this show, and it's really interesting because now the show has been on for long enough. I think they do 2 seasons of this show a year. So season 6 is like year 3, or like the end of year 3.
Okay.
Is my guess. And I don't totally know because we're watching it on Hulu. Now, what is happening is that the show has entered what I always think of as the UFC arc, which is it's the arc that any competitive show follows if it's on for long enough, which is at the beginning of the show, you just get people who like dig this thing, right?
Right.
So at the beginning of UFC, it was just like, this dude does jujitsu, and this dude is a boxer, and this is Tank Abbott, and he's just a psychopath who punches people extremely hard. And we're just going to throw these dudes in a ring and see who knocks the other guy out.
Right.
Right? And then as time goes by, people start training like from the beginning of their fight careers for UFC.
Right. Like UFC becomes sort of like a solved game. Like they
in a weird sort of way.
There are pro strats for being a UFC fighter.
Yeah, I mean there are, right? Like the current champs, like the dudes who are like at the top of their game, they're in their like at their oldest, I want to say they're sort of like early 30s. Well, they have grown up, and if they're in their 20s, like they have grown up in the era of UFC and always know what it was and always know what the rules were. So sort of like from the beginning of their fight careers, they're like, oh, I am going to go and try and be specifically a UFC fighter.
Right.
With like these rules and these regulations, and this is kind of how it works, and blah 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 blah. blah.
And the same thing happened with like American Ninja Warrior. It went from
precisely
like I'm an athletic person and I think I could take that course on, and then however many years later you have people who have like built things in their backyard to practice all year, or like there are gyms that are just built.
I'm gonna say even more, dude. There are like Ninja Warrior training gyms.
Yeah, and like teams from the gyms will come to challenge the course. So are you saying that Alone has followed that same path?
It is. You are starting to see that, like when you're watching the people on the show, you're starting to see stuff like, oh, like one guy said, he's like, I did not bring a bow, like I did not bring a bow and arrow, because I'm a student of this show. And because the participants can bring like 10 items, like from a list, right? So you can bring a tarp, you can bring a bow and arrow, you can bring like whatever. And he says, I have been watching this show, and bows and arrows don't pay off. Everybody brings a bow and arrow and thinks they're going to get like a deer, and no one ever does it. So I didn't bring a bow and arrow.
Okay.
Like that sort of thing. You're seeing people start to say like, oh, when I found out that I was getting on this show, I started to overeat. Like I gained 50 pounds or whatever specifically for this show. Yeah, I mean, it's not a great idea. But if I might try and gain and lose 50 pounds for a shot at $500,000. So people are saying like, yeah, I've watched the show, and the people, generally speaking, who are at the end are people who roll on who can win a starvation game because they rolled in carrying like 70 pounds of emergency rations inside their skin. So it's just this really interesting that like the show itself has to adapt to people knowing and watching and studying itself. It's like this weird adaptive game that happens. Anyways, I just think it's an interesting thing about like competition television. Like even in the Great British Bake Off, which is like the chillest competition as an American, the chillest competition show ever. The technical bakes start to get like really bizarre, like stuff that nobody's ever heard of. I mean, except the people who have been eating it for like 1,000 years or whatever. Right. And they're people too, and they matter, just like outside of their community, no one's heard of it. I felt like a jerk saying that. Sorry, everyone. Anyways, they're like, no longer, they're like, make a cinnamon roll. They're like, make this thing that you've never seen because you're from like East Anglia, Weirdly, I
feel like the competition shows that avoid that are the things where you kind of already have to be a professional in that field before you go into it. Right? So like...
Yeah.
Like I haven't watched Project Runway in probably 10 years, but I used to really like watching Project Runway. And like...
It's a very interesting show,
and like
actually.
Those people were just like, yeah, we are fashion designers. Like there's no like... There's not a lot of strategy that you can learn from watching seasons of that show, or at least not one that was obvious to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, but they're all professionals already to some one degree or another. So anyways, Matt, that's my television watching third star. What is our fourth star of the week?
Dave, our fourth star of the week. Gosh, we have been going a long time on these stars. I need to go through this quickly. Guys, I saw the movie Money Plan.
I did not see the Money Plane.
The movie Money Plan, it stars The Edge, the professional wrestler Adam Copeland, The Edge. It has Kelsey Grammer is like an evil crime lord who sends them all on a mission. Does not seem
like the dude I would pick to play an evil crime lord.
Kelsey Grammer is actually pretty good in it, but you can tell...
Well, Kelsey Grammer is a very good actor, but that seems out of his wheelhouse.
Here's what I think happened. They said, hey, Kelsey Grammer, this is the amount of budget that we have for this movie. We will give half of it to you. You don't have to leave your house. We will send a camera crew to sit next to you as you sit by your pool. You will never have to change outfits. We will do one take of every shot. We just need something to give this an air of legitimacy. Because throughout the thing, you can tell, like, most of the time he is in a scene by himself or with one or two of the same people. Like, at the end of the movie, some people show up to, like, shoot him with guns, and you see the car roll up and the people get out with their guns, and you see him stand up from his table and have a gun, but you never see them interact because that guy's shooting day was over. It also has Thomas Jane in a weird part. The really weird part of this movie is that it was very clearly shot in two people's houses and, like, a hallway.
And like one of them was Kelsey Grammer's?
Right, and probably the other, like, I would not be surprised if the other place that they shot was the Edge's house or somebody's house who was involved in the shoot. Maybe it was Thomas Jane's house. But the rest of it, like, it's in an airplane, and I'm almost certain that the reason it's in an airplane is like, well, airplanes aren't that big, and it's basically a hallway that's, like, segmented. Even a big plane is like that.
So we can do this pretty...
Right. We just need to have, like, 2 or 3 rooms that look like they might be connected, and then we've got a movie. It's truly bad, but it is... Like, it is a good, bad movie. It is a movie that was a lot of fun to watch. Me and producer Mark and a few other people all, like, got on a shared, like, video call. And I think he played it, and, like, we all watched it together.
Yeah.
If you can do something like that, that is a great movie for that sort of thing. Highly recommended.
Love it, love it, love it. So what, Matt, quickly, is our 5th and final star of the week?
5th star of the week. Okay, this is going to start as a black hole, but there is a joke at the end. You know, I don't drive to work anymore, but I do own a car. And
we did mention that, yes.
And I don't have a driveway or a garage, which means that my car has basically just been, like, sitting on the street for the last 4.5 months, and I move it every couple of days to make sure that, like, the engine turn over the engine every couple of days, make sure it's not sitting on the same spot on the tires, for, like, general car health. What this also means is that my car, like, has been messed with a few times in this time period. Specifically, the catalytic converter has been messed with twice. Once, the first time it was, like, straight out cut out of the car and stolen. The second time, they got, like, halfway through cutting it out, and then I guess something spooked them and they left. So I have now had to have my catalytic converter either replaced or repaired twice. Now, here's the funny part. In that time period, I have not gone to a gas station. So I have had my catalytic converter repaired twice since the last time I have bought gas. Which is just like, when you think about it that way, and this is like, you know, you kind of have to think about it that way, otherwise it will drive me insane. But if you think about it that way, it's actually kind of funny. And really, I mean, think about all the money I would have been spending on gas anyway, right? I'm probably breaking even, if I'm being honest.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a good point.
I'm probably spending
it would have been
a little bit
preferable
more
to
money.
not spend that money at all.
Oh, sure, but, you know, I probably broke even money-wise, and I got a new catalytic converter, so, you know.
Well, there you go,
all's
Matt.
well that ends well. Anyway, speaking of things that get a little hairy in the middle, but end up being very nice, we're going to take a break. We are going to watch episode 14 of Denji Sentai Megaranger. Again, it is called Surprise, The Neighbors Are Nezare. It's not actually that. It's a different word that I don't know how to say. It was written by Junki Takagami. Its original air date was May 18th, 1997. You can watch along either with the DVDs or at Shout Factory's website. Recommend you do. This is a good one, and we will be right back to talk about it. I love that we are on video, so when you started that countdown, you could see that I was in the middle of taking a sip of water. All right, welcome back. Guys, Megaranger episode 14. It's very good.
Yeah, I man, now I'm starting to feel like a dope that I keep saying I feel like a dope saying it. Like I've double looped now, right, on saying it. But yeah, Megaranger is very, very good. I think it's a pretty... we're only 14 episodes in. I feel like it's a pretty strong contender for a definitely second best series. I will have to see how it shapes up.
Yeah, I mean, unless it
wants a shot at the title,
real bad, it's definitely already locked into my top 3. Like, it locked into my top 3 pretty early. It would have to beat Dairanger, because I think that Jetman is better than Dairanger, and it's difficult for anything to beat Dairanger for me, just because it's so, like, formative in my love of this series.
Yeah. Well, and also just Dairanger objectively is it's one of the better seasons. Like, it's a really good season. It has a lot going for it. Like, a lot going for it. But so does Megaranger, so we'll see how things go. So this episode opens up at school, as a lot of them do. It's Koichiro, Shun, and Chisato. They're in the library, and they're studying for, it turns out, college entrance exams.
Yes, and they're studying, and they're chatting. School is over. They are there after school, continuing to study.
Yeah. As you would expect of these three, and they're sort of chatting like, oh, what are you going to do? You know, Shun's like going to study animation, and we find out that Koichiro is interested in being a lawyer.
Yeah.
Like, that's his goal. And Chisato mentions she wants to go to journalism, which we sort of already knew.
Yeah.
Because she's a photographer, that's kind of her thing. But
there's this dig that Koichiro throws in. He's like, so Shun, you're going to study like computer graphics at an art college, right? And he's like, yeah, that's the plan. And Koichiro is like, well, then you don't have to study that hard, right? To get into art college?
Yeah. Like, art colleges are really easy to get into now, aren't they? So now, surprisingly, Miku is not there.
Kenta, obviously, is not there. But no one expected Kenta to be there.
That's not surprising. They even mentioned that they don't expect Kenta to be there.
And in fact, they say, like, man, I feel like Miku should be here. We're not surprised that Kenta isn't. Do you think that Kenta is a bad influence on her? Like,
yeah.
She seems like she's been a lot more irresponsible since we've been hanging out with this idiot. Like, he's our friend, come on.
What if Miku has been being influenced by Kenta? The other dig that they get in is they're like, Miku wants to go to college. Like, do we know what college Miku wants to go to? And they're like, no, we know about Kenta. He's not going to college. Obviously. Where are they, of course? Where are Kenta and Miku? They're at the arcade.
Yes.
And they see some kids who are about to play Megaranger. So Kenta and Miku are stoked.
Right.
Because they're like, it's the thing. That's us. And the kids are arguing about who's the best ranger.
Right. They're going through the character select screen. They're trying to figure out which one they're going to play as.
Right. So they're like, not blue,
right.
Not
blue
not
is
yellow.
Like too hard to control. Black has like good power but no like speed. Yellow's pretty fast but has no power.
So now we're down to Mega Pink and Mega Red.
And
there's like 4 kids there.
And 3 of the 4 all in unison are like, it can only be one thing, Mega Red, to which Kenta is thrilled.
Yeah. Now Miku's a little bit bummed. Then Kenta, he calls Dr. Kubota and he's like, my man. Old man, which is what he always calls him. He's like, old man. We're at the arcade. Don't ask. There's some kids here. They love Megaranger. Can't I henshin for them? They'll be super stoked. We need to be like a new generation of superheroes that's like here for the fans. And Kubota's like, no, you can't. You cannot do that.
You have been entrusted with incredible power. Do not use it like this.
Yeah. Now, there's one kid left, Shinya. And he says, I really like Mega Pink.
And the other 3 are like, wait, Mega Pink? Why would you like Mega Pink? And he's like, I like kid stuff. I don't know. And
I like kid stuff.
And then the other 3 bully him savagely.
Yeah. Well, they do a little. They're certainly not nice to him. And they're like, well, they're like, well, how do you know Mega Pink is cute? You've never met her. No, he hasn't ever met her. That's definitely true. And Shinya says, no, I have. And they are like, no, that's definitely not true. And Shinya's upset and runs away. Right. Then Kenta jumps in. He's like, guys, why are you bullying this kid about this? And they're like, dude, we are not trying to be bullies, but he lies all the time. Like, this is just a thing about this kid. Like, he just lies all the time.
Right.
Constantly makes things up.
He is a boy who cried wolf. And then Kent is like, wait, he turns into a wolf man at the full moon?
And even the other children are like, no, Kenta, that's not how it works. So anyway, so we see this kid, Shinya, he runs home, he's sitting in a park, like a little park outside of his house. A little girl walks up, and she's moving, and Shinya's sad, and she's sad, but they're like, oh, we'll write. But the point of this is, and she like drives away to moving van. The point of this is to set up the fact that Shinya and his dad are the last people living in this building.
Yes.
Because the building has been like bought out or whatever, and it's going to be demolished for like a new sports center.
Yeah. There's like a big sign,
All
like
right.
future site of new sports center.
Yeah.
Like a cop on a bicycle rides by and says like, oh, hey, Shinya, how you doing? I guess you guys are the only people here anymore. That's sad, but you've still got your dad, so, you know, you'll be cool.
The dude who plays this cop has played, like, I definitely recognize this guy.
The
Like,
actor?
he has played the actor. He has played a number of roles in Sentai. I feel like he played Azukirai from Kaku Ranger, but that might just be because he was wearing the cop uniform, but, like, I definitely recognize this dude.
Maybe. Yeah, the face looked familiar. I don't know if it was Azuki, but maybe they only have the one cop outfit, and like he is the guy that it fits.
It just fits the dude.
It's his. He brings it from home.
So the dad gets home, and he's like, hey, I love you, son, but I'm sorry, like, we haven't been able to move. Like, I've been super busy with work. I know we should move.
Yeah.
And we get another quick tag in on Shinya that he's a liar. And they're like, because the dad says, how did it go? And he's like, oh, I played Megaranger with my friends. They all like Mega Pink just like I do.
Well, okay. Shinya is lying here, but like it is the saddest lie because this is not a lie like, oh, I'm just like saying this to like, you know, make myself look cool. It's like he is lying so that his dad doesn't worry about him and doesn't feel bad about the fact that like they are stuck in this apartment alone.
Oh, yeah, dude, Shinya, like, I'm sorry, I should say, Shinya's a super sweet kid.
Yeah.
I just want to establish, because, like, it does become relevant later, that he does, in fact, lie.
Yeah.
A lot.
Whoever does the casting for this show did a really great job finding Shinya. Because,
Dude.
like, you know how people have, like, resting bitch face? Shinya has, like, resting, heartbroken child face.
Man. He does. Like, it tugs on the heartstrings, dude. So, it's nighttime. He's asleep. He wakes up, and there's like some construction moving stuff happening in the building, and then like a bunch of lights turn on in various apartments.
And he's looking at his window, and what he sees is a bunch of like moving trucks and people like hauling furniture around, which is weird because nobody lives there.
Yeah. He wakes up. And we find out it's not just that, like, we haven't seen the mom yet. There is no mom. We don't know why, but she's not there.
Right.
Dad says, hey, like, I'm super sorry. I have to work overtime today. Your dinner's already in the fridge. Like, I've got your breakfast set up for you, but you kind of have to eat it on your own because, like, I need to leave.
Right. Like, lock the door on your way out. I'll see you tonight.
Yeah. Which is like, oh, Shinya is, like, maybe 9 years old.
Yeah.
So but he tells his dad, he's like, hey, I saw some really weird stuff. And his dad's like, no, like, that's impossible. We're the only ones who live here. You must have been dreaming. I got to go to work.
Yeah. So Shinya is leaving for school, and he hears something in the apartment next door to his. And he's like, wait, is Miho back? Miho is the little girl who moved away earlier.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
He's like, is Miho back? And he goes and
So exciting.
He peeks in the front window, and he sees some people moving around. And it's like some parents talking to a kid and like, okay, so how do you greet people when you go to school? And they're like practicing human, like what they are doing is practicing human speech, because what Shinya sees is that they are not regular people. They are in fact, and I now know what these things are called because they're all over this episode, the kune,
Yes.
like the purple putty people.
I don't know why, but this raises horrifying implications for me. Because the Rangers blow through these dudes I mean, like they always do, because they're minions, right? Like they take these dudes out by like the dozens every episode, and for some reason, when they're just like putties, right? Or the what are they from last season? The Wumpers, where they're clearly like not intelligent, like that. I feel more okay about that. But now that the Kune are revealed to actually be fully sentient. I know they kill a sentient monster at the end of every episode, but it's like a big thing, as opposed to just like casually murdering these cannon fodder Kune.
I am choosing to believe that for the most part, the Kune are like sort of blank slates that can be programmed to do whatever. So like these ones,
that makes me
like,
feel.
Made
programmed
to,
with a semblance of that. Actually, that's a balm to me, Matt. Thank you.
Now, there is one of them that
anyways,
is definitely sentient, and they do kill at the end of this episode. But he's like the episode monster.
Yeah, we're going to get into this.
It's very good.
I was going to say, don't say anything else. I sort of already feel like you've said too much. Anyways, Shunya obviously is like, oh, this is extremely weird and bad. So he runs. And he finds his cop friend, and he's like, hey, there's terrifying monsters. And then he sees in the cop friend looks normal, but when you see him in the mirror, he's not.
Yeah.
He is also a Kune, and he turns around and he gives an evil grin, and then Shinya runs again.
The evil grin, this is an effect that they do throughout the episode, is that, like, the cop is not sitting in a dark room, but they do put a bright light directly, like, under his face to highlight his features and make him look evil. It's a nice touch.
It is. It's a good little. So we go to Nezare Dimension, and Shibolin is like, Dr. Hinalar, the plan is working perfectly. We've replaced these people with Kune. And Dr. Hinalar is like, yes, soon we will have taken over, like, this one neighborhood in Tokyo. And, like, so, like, there's no discussion of, like, how this is part of a larger plan. The
threat in this episode is definitely more sort of atmospheric and existential. It is not like, the world is going to be blown up. It's like these things are infiltrating human society.
Right, but they don't say, like, this is a good test case for, like, taking over Parliament. Just like, we've got this one apartment building
that is scheduled for demolition.
Right from there, the world. It's just like, it's not their best plan. So they we see Shinya again. He runs and he finds his friends, and he's like, guys, my apartment building is filled with terrifying monsters. And they're like, well, why don't you tell Mega Pink about it, you liar?
And then they run off singing to themselves, Shinya is a liar. And listen, has Shinya lied to them? Yes. But this is the sort of special cruelty that only children can have.
Yeah, this is not great, guys. So Kubota calls the Rangers, and he's like, guys, we're not really sure.
We're getting like a vague Nezare alert, but it's not like pinpointed on any one monster. We can't figure out where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Could you guys go check it out?
Yeah. So Kenta says, I'll go check it out, but you have to buy me extra special kalbi, which is like a Korean barbecue dish. And Kubota says, I will buy you regular kalbi, like it's better for you anyway.
The other four are all supposedly supposed to be staying after school to study again, but Miku is like, I will help you with this. That sounds like a lot more fun. Chisato and Koichiro are like, Miku, you definitely should be studying. Like, it's going to be next year before you know it, and we need to have this stuff figured out, college-wise. And Miku just turns to Chisato and says, like, how about this? How about you study extra hard for me, and then I'll have no trouble getting in. And just turns around and walks out.
Yeah, which is not how it works, but is that's a real power move, Miku. Like, that's a strong way to end the conversation.
Yeah.
So they're walking along, and they're like heading over to the area, and we get some pathos, I actually feel, from Kenta. Because the vibe that I have always gotten from Kenta is that he's just kind of a knucklehead who doesn't like studying, and the other ones are very studious. But here what he says is, he says, so Miku, like, what's up with you? You haven't been studying, and unlike me, like, you're not a dummy. If you wanted to, you can actually go to college. So I'm wondering, like, this makes me feel like Kenta's not just like a knucklehead. He actually is like, oh man, like, I am not good at school and I feel bad about it and I am concerned about the future, and I will cover that up by
like bluster.
Kind of leaning into that. Yeah. But now I'm like, oh dang, Kenta. Like, as a teacher, I mean, just as a person, but particularly as a teacher, now I have like a lot more feeling for Kenta.
And Miku, we actually get
this.
some good Miku stuff too, because Miku's like, listen, yeah, like, I could, I guess, but the thing is that I don't like studying. Like, I'm good at it, but I don't like school. And I don't want to feel like I'm being pressured into going to college just because everybody else is. Like, I don't know if that's what I want, and it's a big thing to figure out in your life.
Yeah, and like right now I'm being a Megaranger, and that's very important, and so like it's cool. So they see Shinya, and just some really great character building. Like, and I love it, and it's like, this is really good writing, and you don't get it in all the seasons of Sentai. Like, this is, I know we've been talking about it at length, but like, this is maybe 20 seconds worth of conversation. And they just pack a lot of character development into that 20 seconds. It's just really well done. Anyways, so they see Shinya. Shinya's really sad. Kenta's gonna jog over, and Miku's like, no, like, let me talk to him. So he relays this whole story, and Miku says, well, even if nobody else believes you, I'll believe you. And then they do like a little pinky grab promise, and they say like,
the pinky grab promise. The thing
pinky
that
swear.
Everyone calls it. The famous pinky grab promise.
Well, they don't say it's a pinky swear.
In every elementary school in this world.
Okay, listen. Well, they also just use the phrase, if I lie, I must swallow 1,000 needles. So that bit's unusual in my experience.
I mean, sure, you're going to have some local flavor in the pinky swear.
Yeah, pin flavor, apparently. So Shinya's stoked about that. Like, he's relieved, and then he leaves, and Kenta shows up, and he's like, man, I like Shinya, but he does lie, and the kids know it, and like...
The kids call him a boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
And Miku reminds him, like, you don't actually know how that story goes. You thought it meant werewolf. In the end of that story, there is a wolf. So, like, we should probably go check this out.
Right. Also, Kenta, this is, like, you know that there's Nezare energy rolling around, and you're a ranger. Like...
Right, you are out looking for leads. You have found one.
Right. So, they're kind of investigating. The evil cop is rolling around. Shinya gets home, and it looks like his apartment is empty, but his dad's at home. And
there are people, like, the whole apartment complex is just packed. There are, like, people playing in the playground. Yeah. There are people going in and out of the, like, various apartments.
Yeah. And Miku's there with Shinya. And Shinya, like, tells this thing to his dad. He's like, no, these people are all monsters. And Shinya's like, the dad's like, don't lie. I've told you so many times. And he pulls him inside. So then Kenta meets back up with Miku. And Kenta says, like, yeah... Like, I've been asking around and everybody just seems normal. Like, I just don't know if Shinya is, like, I think maybe he's making this up.
Yeah. And then Miku's like, well, yeah, his dad came out and, like, you know, told him to stop lying. I don't know. I feel bad. And Kenta has a moment of clarity here. He's like, wait a second. His dad is home? It's the middle of the day. His dad is a businessman. His dad's probably not supposed to be home for like 5 hours. Like, what is going on? And before they have a chance to, like, really explore that thought or, you know, maybe
do anything.
Like, they are just suddenly surrounded by crowds of... They're standing in a stairwell, and now there's just like a bunch of people coming down and up the stairs towards them.
I know it's a convention of the show because, like, the children watch the show and they would like to see themselves in the show. But every once in a while, I am reminded that outside the context of Super Sentai, it is just weird how much they know and are, like, pals with, like, children. like Kenta knows who Shinya is. He knows who his dad is and, like, what his job is.
Right.
And, like, again, I know it's a convention of the show. It's I don't know. It just pops out to me. Like, why do you know these details of Shinya's life, Kenta?
Anyway, so they start getting swarmed by these people. They, like, hop off the side because it's like an exterior stairwell. So they hop over the railing to, like, jump down to get away from the people. And as soon as they land, there are, like, a bunch of other people who have been waiting, like, just behind a railing, and they all stand up at the same time and start running.
Yeah, dude. I bet it would be so much fun to be an extra in one of these scenes. So they're, like, running. They're like, oh, wait a minute. We've left Shinya with his fake dad.
Right. Because at this point, like, they go into one of the apartments and they realize that these people are Kune.
Yes.
Like, because some of them have been, like, transforming.
Yeah. So we cut over, and the fake dad is strangling Shinya.
It's upsetting, I'll tell you that.
It's very upsetting, probably for Shinya more than anyone else, who's now going to require, I'm just going to guess, like, a lifetime of therapy. And he yells, die, and that's very bad. But then the Rangers save him, so that's cool.
Yes.
Shinya...
Okay, here is one convenient thing as regards Shinya's lifetime of therapy. While he is attacking Shinya, he turns into a Kune. This is good because when the Mega Rangers bust into his apartment and shoot that Kune in the back of the head and kill him, that would have been very upsetting had he still looked like the dad.
Yeah, having your dad turn into a monster that's trying to kill you also
would
not be great.
This is not a great day for Shinya. I'm just trying to find a silver lining here.
Okay, however, there is a good thing that happens, which is that Mega Pink has come to rescue him. And he's like, oh, Mega Pink! And then Red is standing in the background. He's like, I, Mega Red, am also here. And he, like, poses with this Mega Blaster.
Shinya does not care. But while Mega Red is not being, is not busy being appreciated, he does hear something banging around in the closet, opens it up, and thankfully, it is Shinya's dad who is tied up in the closet, which I guess means that he must have been, like, nabbed by the Kune on his way, like, out of the building to work. Because he had left that morning.
Would make sense.
And I doubt that the Kune followed him to work, grabbed him there, brought him home, tied him up, and put him in the closet. That would have been a lot of extra work.
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable supposition that they just grabbed him on their way from work. So we quick jump to the Nejirejian dimension, and Shiblin is like, Dr. Hinelar, we've been discovered, like, abort plan. And then Hinelar says, no, this is an opportunity to kill the Rangers. It's like, well, I mean, yes,
technically, any fight
this is definitely an
opportunity.
opportunity. Right, but, like, you have every time, like, the whole series is opportunities for you to kill the Rangers. Like, that's like that's your thing, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like you don't feel like you need an engraved invitation for that. Like, you just can go do that, or you can try at least. So the Kune run, and the Rangers have henshined, and they're fighting, of course, and they're overwhelmed. Yeah, they're doing really well.
Yeah, because, like, individually, the Kune are not really a threat, but when there is just an endless supply of them and there's only the two Rangers, like, it gets to be a problem.
Yeah, there's like 1,000 of these things. Like, we see an establishing shot of, like, a gigantic crowd.
We're going to see that in a minute.
Kune.
Yeah.
Sorry, we didn't catch it.
What we do find out also, okay, so, like, they're fighting the Kune in the woods. The Kune run away because they're all being summoned somewhere. So Mega Red and Mega Pink follow, and they see that there's just like this rally. I guess there's like this one Kune commander, and he looks slightly different. His head is a different color. It's black instead of purple.
Yeah, it's a black instead of
And he's like, we are the Kune army, or the Nezare army, and like we are here to like destroy everyone, so let's get out there and do it, team. And it's just, as you said, this shot of like hundreds, maybe 1,000 of these Kune all just like shouting and cheering about how they're going to destroy the Megarangers. At this point,
yeah.
Kenta and Miku turn around and run away. But they are chased, and again, they get into a fight. They're doing well. They're getting overwhelmed. At some point, Miku says, hey, why are you not using your drill saber? That seems like it would be very useful right now.
He's like, oh man, I broke it in the fight with Ugande, and I just didn't get another
like,
one.
remember last episode, Ugande just broke it in half? Yeah, so here we are. Anyway, so
now,
at this point, they have called the other three. Because they know that, like, this is a problem and we need help.
Yeah, this super putty, I think they call him King Kune or something.
Although, that is a term that is used in this episode, yeah.
Yeah, let's just call him that. So King Kune arrives and he attacks them, and they're just definitely...
He's also got, like, special moves.
So now is when we sort of realize that King Kune is the monster of the week. Like, he's not just an additional Kune. He has, like, superpowers, and he's shooting fireballs out of his eyes and all sorts of stuff.
Which he shoots those fireballs at Kenta and Miku, and things are about to go very badly for them. But the other three now finally arrive. They roll up on the Digitank and are able to sort of push back the Kune. And they also have delivered a spare drill saber to Kenta, which is great.
He's like, oh, awesome. They're like, Dr. Kubota had one for you. So they throw out a new attack, Drill Sniper Custom, when he just blasts him.
Which is cool, because that means that in the previous episode, when the other four had all put their weapons together to make like one big cannon, I was like, oh, wow, it's weird that there's no spot for the drill saber on there. And that is because the drill saber gets its own custom thing.
Yeah, and I think we may well see like a five weapon combo.
I would not be surprised.
So now this is where things get kind of go off the rails, but in a very positive way. So it turns out this week's giant monster is not just King Kune turning giant.
It is King Kune. He says, like, soldiers, gather around me.
And they all just kind of start dogpiling him by, like, grabbing his arms and legs, but he's still standing up. And this week's giant monster isn't, like, King Kune infected with the giant virus. They have just, like, nanobotted all the Kunes together to make a giant monster.
And the thing that it reminds me of the most is, do you remember in Castlevania... I know it's in Symphony of the Night. It might be in a few other Castlevanias as well. There's just a monster that's just like a big ball of like bodies that are all stuck together. And as you attack it, just like bodies fall off of the orb. It's very gross. It's like a cool, gross Castlevania monster.
So, the fight is kind of cool. It's not a long fight, unfortunately, but like they try their moves and the moves don't work because it's like fighting a nanobot swarm, right? Like they blast it and it just blasts a hole in it, and then the putties or the Kune just kind of fill back in. And Kenta just says, well, the obvious answer that suggests itself to me is that I'll just shoot it a whole bunch more times.
And then eventually maybe it'll all fall apart and I guess stay apart if it runs out of Kune to put it back together.
Now, that is kind of weird to me because we know that the one thing that Kenta is good at, well, I guess I was just assuming he was good at video games. Maybe he's only good at Megaranger.
You know, didn't we have the same conversation last week about how it was like the key to defeating the monster was targeting like the antenna? Maybe he's only good at fighting games. Yeah.
Anyways, so
he's just sort of recklessly just like emptying the I guess not emptying, because it's not like there's not ammunition. He's just shooting a bunch of laser blasts at this thing. And Miku leans over and she was like, listen, that is a bad idea. There's one right there that looks different, that is clearly giving all the answers, or all the orders rather. He is the one who is where his heart would be if he had a heart. Just shoot that one instead, okay?
Yeah. And like his face is sitting right there, like very obviously.
Yeah. Kenta has this moment, like, see, I told you, you are smart after all. Miku is like, we don't have time for you to compliment me and say something that I already know. Just shoot the monster, please.
And he does. And then King Kune, that's it for King Kunekune. Like, there's not a giant version of the giant version, which would have been cool, but weird.
Oh, if all of them had grown and turned into, like, I guess if they could do that, they would have just done that to begin with and stepped on the planet.
Anyways, so we're at the end of the episode, and they're all hanging out and talking, and Kenta's like, thanks, Miku. They're like, you really should go to college. And they're like, you can't count on Kenta for good advice. And even Kenta's like, hey, I know. You don't have to say it.
It's a very nice conversation, because Miku says, listen, maybe I'll go to college. I'll figure it out. Right now, I really like being a Megaranger, because never in my life before has anyone really, like, expected anything from me. I've just sort of been kind of like drifting through life. I mean, honestly, like the way that a lot of people are until they hit adulthood. They're just, you do the things that you have to do and you sort of grow up and you have life. But she's like, no one's ever expected anything from me, and I've never had to really try hard at anything. And this is like a special thing that I'm doing that people need me to do. And it feels good to like do something that has stakes to it. Like, I really appreciate that. And that's more important to me than college right now. And the other three who weren't part of the conversation until this point were like, like, now that we've talked to you about it and we like understand how you feel, like, yeah, that's great. Like, listen, we are your friends. We support you. If you want to talk about college stuff later, we will be here for you then as well. But for now, like, we support you. You're your friend. We are your friends. It's a very nice moment for everyone.
Yeah. So then we see Shinya, and he is talking to his other friends, and he's like, no, I really did meet Megapink. Like, we are pals. And they're like, yeah, dude, for sure. Like, that's obviously not true. Miku, predictably, like, ducks off, summons her Cyber Slider, and does just like a totally, just like a real big entrance, lands, and is like, Shinya, how is my best buddy? You're so cool. And everybody, of course, is blown away. She's like, I can't wait to have a whole day of fun with you. Now, I do hope that fun includes a little bit of a talk about, like, Shinya, clearly you're having a rough time. And, like, I wanted to bail you out. And you are a great kid. But please do not actually lie to your friends anymore.
I think my favorite part of the end of the episode is that Kenta feels so, like, hurt and betrayed by Dr. Kubota. Because earlier, he was not allowed to transform to Henshin to show off for the kids. But Miku is allowed to. So he calls Dr. Kubota.
He ducks off to the side.
And he's just yelling at him. And Dr. Kubota's like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not really, like... He's just, like, refusing to acknowledge the situation. And then he just uses his, like, the back scratcher that he is using to just, like, click the computer mouse to hang up on Kenta. Yeah. It's very good.
It's great. So
Dave, that is the end of the episode, but it is not the end of our episode, because first we need to determine where King Kunekune lands in the Creature Royale.
Dude, man, I feel like pretty good.
Yeah, King Kunekune rules.
Like, this is a he doesn't obviously have much of a story, but A, it's a very good episode, and B, he is in charge of this, like, not greatly formed plan, but it is sort of like weird and atmospherically creepy, so that's cool.
Yeah, and okay, I feel like when we're rating King Kunekune, I am not just rating, like, the one Kunekune who is in the center, like the central hub of this whole thing. I feel like we really need to rate the threat of the episode, because it is all literally one thing at the end, and I feel like we should really judge
Oh
it
yeah,
as such.
yeah, for sure. I think
So
like
it's
the
like
King Kune
it's-
Kune, like the giant version of it, like that is a really cool and unique monster. Like that's not something they've
Yeah.
ever done before, I don't think.
And it goes from like creepy pod people to huge lump of monsters acting in unison, or living nanobots. Like it's very good.
Yeah. The truth is, Matt, as I'm kind of looking at this list, because King Kune Kune is such a weird monster, I'm actually kind of struggling to find a touch point for him. Like there's not really another monster like him. Like I feel like he's definitely top half.
Yeah, well,
At least.
Dave, so I'm looking around the halfway point, and
Which at this point is like 95.
yeah, above the halfway point at number 89 is Copy Empress, and Copy Empress is not the same, obviously, but she was another monster who was like copying and replacing people, and she was
Okay,
also
yeah, no, that makes sense.
central to what I thought was a very cool episode of Dairanger, in the way that this is a very cool episode of Megaranger. So that is at least like a starting point, right?
Yeah, all right. Well, I gotta be honest. Ooh, no. Copy Empress is... No, Copy... I was about to say I like King Kune Kune better. Copy Empress is actually a really, really cool monster.
Well, okay, Copy Empress is cool. But the reason that Copy Empress is cool is because she creates a copy of Kazu. And there being a copy of Kazu that was played by the twin brother of the actor who played Kazu, like, that's what was cool. Copy Empress herself, like, facilitated that. But I don't think that she was as interesting as King Kunekune, especially as King Kunekune, like, develops near the end of this episode. Like, this is a very memorable...
I dig that.
This is a very memorable giant monster fight in a way that, like, I don't remember what the giant monster fight for Copy Empress was.
That actually is a very good point. This is a very, very memorable giant monster fight. I think actually based on that, we could actually go quite a bit up this list. Because, like, I'm thinking about the Ring Priestesses and KKSU, Max the King of Speed, and those are also great episodes. But, like, actually, Dara Dara is another very cool giant monster.
For anybody who does not remember immediately who Dara Dara was, I mean, I do, obviously, off the top of my head, but for our listeners who might not remember immediately, could you explain that one?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Dara Dara is a monster from Kaku Ranger, and he is... he manages to, like, steal Ninja Man's power, and he also actually... And I had forgotten about this part until I was looking at the picture of him. He also is like an amalgamation monster. How does he do it? Let me see. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. And then 3, 2, 1. Sing. Yeah, Dara Dara is like siphons off ninja magic power and like absorbs the Rangers kind of into himself.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so like he actually is a pretty rad monster. I would say that King Kune Kune is not quite at that level.
Okay, so below that is Master Mirror. Is that the mirror monster from Dairanger?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Now that was a cool one because Master Mirror had like absorbed the peacock, the immortal peacock Buddha into himself for thousands of years.
Yes.
Kujaku?
Yes. So I would say just below that is Pachinko Master, and I think I would put King Kune Kune above Pachinko Master, just for like the cool,
I mean, just
like
for the visual.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Okay, I think that is a good spot for him.
Well, there we
spot
go.
Number 82. And that, Dave, that is going to do it for another episode of The Spy Who Loved Megaranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all that you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com if you want to get any updates on future episodes, or check out the things that we are talking about on Twitter. We are at Super Sentai Bros. Please remember, if you like the show, shining in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. If you want to rate and review on there, or just tell a friend, that would be very lovely of you. The Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. If you'd like to listen to any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can find them all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.